$4 million car. So I said, no, I'll just sit here and drool. And we walk in, he said, and Richard says, you have no idea who that is, do you? I said, no, who is it? Mick Fleetwood.
Welcome to the Satori Lifestyle Satori Masters Podcast, the ultimate resource for ambitious, hardworking school owners that want to get their business and their life to the next level. My name is Dave Kovar. I'm a lifetime martial artist, business owner, speaker, and author. My goal is to empower listeners with the knowledge and the tools they need to break through barriers and really get their business and their life to the next level. Thanks for watching and enjoy.
Welcome to the Satori Masters Podcast. I'm your host, Dave Kovar, and I'm super excited. With me today is none other than Bill Wallace. Hello, sir.
I'm fine. How are you today?
I'm doing great. It's an honor to have you here.
Thank you very much. It's late. There's a sun out there. It's pretty outside, but they're not nearly as good as the ones in Florida.
Oh, yes, sir. No doubt about it. So those of you that don't know, if you're martial arts, of course you know who Mr. Wallace is. If not, Bill Wallace has been training martial arts for 60 years-ish.
How are you doing today? It's a wonderful time.
And he started when he was 2 years old.
Yeah, I was 2 years old. Just became,
a world champion point fighter, world champion, multi-time world champion kickboxer, and a true living legend. And I say that, I don't say that lightly. And it's somebody I've, of course, followed my whole career, and I'm proud to, have him as a friend and mentor. And the reason why I wanted you on the podcast is, first off, you're always fun to hang out with.
Well, thank you. That's fun for you, Dave. Have a blast with you. Slow down.
Yes, sir.
Slow the talk down. Slow
just so you know, down. My mom's been telling me to do that since I was 6 years old. It didn't work then either.
You know what it is? You have so much to say, and you don't have enough time to say
sir.
It. That's great. That is a great trait to have.
Well, I will try to slow down on this, but here's the deal. I would like to kind of ask you a few questions. So first off, if you don't mind me saying, you're in your late 70s. Is that correct?
77.
77 years old, and you're still on the road doing seminars, the same thing you've been doing literally for 40 years.
Since 1972.
Since 1972.
I started doing seminars in 1972.
And a couple things that I want to drill into. And one of them is, of course, you're still amazingly fit, and I know it's due to your amazing diet. We'll talk about that later.
The diet's wonderful.
But it's also your passion. Like, how many times in your career have you signed an autograph or taken a picture or met somebody? But when you connect with people, you really connect with them. You like let them know you're there. And so I guess I want to start by just asking you, why martial arts? What do you think that brings to the table for people?
Well, that's a lot. If you look at it just for what it is, it's the same thing as soccer, softball, baseball, volleyball. It's something for somebody to do. But for some of us, it becomes our life passion. They say golf is one of those things you can play forever. No, you can't, because when you get to be 75, 80 years old, you don't play from the back tees anymore. You play from the gold tees, which is not nearly as much fun as from the back tees, because you can't hit the ball as far. But we in the martial arts, we can do this forever. I'm 77 years old. I've had 4 hip operations, 1 knee operations. I can still do the splits. Not to brag. I apologize if you take this as a brag, but I have no trouble doing the splits. I have no trouble kicking and punching. We have a blast. And to me, this is my therapy. This is a blast. I love to do it. It's second nature to me. I don't have to say, how do I do this? Because I've done it so many times, and it's, out of sight, out of mind,
right,
basically.
Right.
And practice doesn't make perfect. It makes permanent. And that's something to remember also, because as we're doing this, think of all the combinations, all the techniques that we've been taught. If in an actual fight, which one are you going to do? Well, basically, why do you think the reverse punch, the back fist reverse punch, is the #1 technique in point fighting?
Because it's basic.
The very first day.
Okay.
The very first day, you did the reverse punch. Now you've been doing it every day since that very first day. They add the back fist to it, which keeps the other guy away, makes you block high. There's a reverse punch right underneath. Same thing with boxing. First thing you learn is the jab cross. Muscle memory.
Got it. Well, so what you've done is that you've also kept yourself in peak shape. In other words, how have you, like a lot of people from your generation maybe aren't still doing what you're doing, and part of that maybe is good genetics.
Right.
But there's a lot you've done consciously. So take me through. I'm some guy that's been training I'm 32 years old, and I'm complaining about getting old. You've heard this.
Yep.
And
still do.
And yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so what would you tell that guy about? All right, man. You want to be doing this in 40 years. Here's a few tips for you.
Well, I was a wrestler in high school and college.
Okay.
When I joined the service, I wanted to continue to wrestle. At that time, I weighed about 125 pounds. So playing basketball is not going to work. Playing football back then is not going to work, because we didn't have soccer back in the 60s. So I had to find something to do. I joined the service. I walked across to the men's gym. I said, do they have a wrestling team? And they said, well, we don't know what these guys are doing in the back, but they're rolling around on a mat. I said, great. I go back to these guys, these little white suits, or throwing each other all over. I said, excuse me, being an upstart 18-year-old kid, excuse me, does anybody here wrestle? And the guy stands up, got his black belt on. He says, I wrestle. And I said, well, do they wrestle here? And he said, well, I'll wrestle. So he takes his white gi. I take him down a couple times, put him on his back a couple times. He says, that's pretty good. I said, well, thank you, sir. He said, now put this little white coat on. So I put this little white coat on. He says, now we're going to wrestle again. I bounced off the walls. I bounced off the ceiling. A couple times even bounced off the floor. And I go, what is this called? He says, it's called judo. I went, wow, this is fun. Because also you practice throwing each other, but also there's groundwork.
Right.
The groundwork in judo came from jiu-jitsu. They just got rid of the killing stuff, the breaks and stuff like this. So I started doing that. Was on the 2nd Air Force Team Judo Championship, which I have a great metabolism. I weigh the same now, not to brag, I apologize again, but I weigh the same now that I weighed when I retired in 1980.
Wow.
I have not gained a pound. And I still have my old Air Force uniform from 1967 that still fits.
That's so cool. That's so cool. Well, so besides a great metabolism, so you're doing judo in the 60s.
Well, back then, those people that are listening that were in the service, we have two choices in the service. Either you find something to do after your job's over,
okay,
or go get drunk with your buddies.
Okay.
That's basically the only things there are to do. Well, I don't drink. Doesn't even taste good. So I got to find something to do. And my passion, my first love is wrestling. So I went over, find out judo is very similar to wrestling. And here we are.
And then you messed your knee up and then ended up seeing a karate class somewhere and practice.
Well, what happened is I get stationed in Okinawa.
Okay.
I go there, continue to play judo. And it's true what they say, a good big man will beat a good little man. I'm working out, again, I'm 125, 130 pounds. I'm working out with a guy about 190. I come in for a throw called a seotoshi, which is a body drop. He steps across my leg to counter. I step through his leg with a throw called ochigari to counter his counter. And he just claps, tormenting. Sound like this.
Oh.
I just lay there and I go, oh, God. And they go, you don't want to look. Just keep your head straight forward. So I said, oh. So they take me to the hospital, and they want to do something called exploratory surgery.
That's pre-MRI. There's no MRI.
There was no
no
MRI.
idea. They're just going to cut you open and see what they can find.
We want to see what's wrong.
Yeah.
And so I said, well, what's the chance of it being normal if you don't cut? 50-50. What's of it being normal if you do cut? 50-50. Thanks, doc. Put a cast on. Let me get out of here. So they put a cast on it, and I'm knowing at that time, because this is before arthroscopic surgery or any kind of surgery other than exploratory. I know my career's done. So I'm forlorn, upset. And a friend says, hey, there's a karate school downtown. Let's go check it out. We're in Okinawa at Kadena Air Base, so we drive downtown, take a bus downtown to Naha. And then we go to this karate school. And we're on the benches watching them teach, and this guy comes up and got a black boy and says, oh, you do karate? I said, what? He said, you do karate? And my friend said, do you want to do karate? He said, yeah, it looks like it's fun. He said, you stand up. I said, I got a bed. And he said, no problem, you stand up. So I stand up. He said, we do yokogeri. What's a yokogeri? Side kicker, side kicker. So he showed me the side kick. So I stood there and did about 14,000 of those things. It's like Apollo said, you got to do it over and over and over. So my favorite kick is
your
the
other
side
knee is in a
kick.
brace at the time.
I can't move.
Okay.
But I can bring the leg up and throw the side kick. 14,000 of those things. So I go back to the base later on. I come back that next week. He says, oh, you back. Now we do Moashigiri. Roundhouse kick. So I did the same thing, throw the roundhouse kick. A couple months later, I come back watching Tyson. I get out of the cast and I start the training. I have a brace on and start the training. And we're doing all the punches and the kicks. Now, understand, in Okinawa, you're taught this Gakuzuki, Oizuki, Seikenzuki will kill somebody. So we're hitting Imakawara boys, we're hitting bags, hitting each other before equipment.
Right.
And thinking we're Billy Bad Butts. And I said, now we do kumite. What's kumite? We fight. Now, just a minute, coach. Sensei. We're going to fight. Yes. But you've been telling me this whole time this reverse punch can kill somebody. And I'm going to hit you with that reverse punch, maybe. Oh, we practice kimi. No, the Japanese word.
Sure.
What is kimi? Focus, control. Oh, How do you practice that? You pull it. Oh, okay, so he shows us how to do that. So I'm sparring with this guy, black belt, and I throw the side kick, and he backs out of the way. So I brought the heel right, caught him in the solar plexus, and drop him. He gets up and says, "What'd you do? What'd you do?" You know, with a senior, and I just stood there, and he said, "What'd you do? What'd you do?" I said, well, I threw yoga getty. You got to, so I just brought my heel around. I don't know what it's called. He says, "Oh, urumoshigiri." And those are the three kicks: the side kick, the roundhouse kick, and the hook kick.
And you made your career with that, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, in all your your title, your fights, pretty much you kick with your left leg with those three kicks.
Well, if you look at it, who said you had to use both sides?
Yeah.
I've never been able to use both sides because of my knee being very bad. So, and I'm left-handed. Luckily, I'm left-legged, so I fight sideways. Now, my weapons, both my weapons, are closest to you. Besides, if you look at me this way and I stand this way to face you, and I say, "Where do you see this open?" First thing you do is to look down.
Yeah.
Now, which means you're thinking. You're trying to find an opening, as opposed to just seeing one like this. You're looking. So now the muscles are contracting because you're starting to think. You're starting to anticipate something.
Okay.
Now you're slower.
Okay.
And I know the openings are still because I can see everything right from here.
So you have like you're still teaching and training, and
Yeah.
you
Still
like,
love
you're
it.
on the road all the time.
Still love it.
and it's really clear. Like you just taught a class today. You walked, you literally drove from San Francisco.
Yeah, yeah.
Got out of the car, walked in, and had 40 people, taught a class.
Yeah,
And so what gives you clearly you could do other things. You choose not to, and we're appreciative you don't. Why do you find joy in teaching martial arts?
From my father.
Okay.
My father was a school teacher.
Okay.
A principal in high school. He always wanted me to be a school teacher. His whole thing is, when are you going to quit doing this stuff and get a job?
I remember hearing
When are you
that
going
as
to quit
well.
doing this stuff
Yep.
and get a job? And he set up interviews for me. I have a master's degree in kinesiology and physiology of exercise. But he would call up and says, I got this interview set up. It says high school, you'll do great. So I'd go to the interview, and they guys to do this. And the last interview I went to, just before I had the World Championships, is in Frankfurt, Indiana. I go to the interview, and he says, this is what we pay, like $8,500 a year to teach 4 hours a day. Shop.
Guys, you younger generation, that was a lot of money in that time.
$8,000 was a lot of money back then, yeah. And on my resume, I see where you're a wrestler. I said, yes, sir. He says, our wrestling coach is going to retire in another 5 or 6 years, and you'll be first in line to get his job. You'll be the assistant right now. We can't pay you for the assistantship, but when you get his job, you get another $100 a month.
Wow.
Oh, goody.
Yeah.
Now, understand the wrestling season is October, November, December, January, February, and March. 6 months. So I get a whole $600 to set up the wrestling program, to set up the meets.
So it probably worked out to be like $1.50 an hour.
Oh,
man.
at the most, because wrestling is going to be 3 hours a night
Sure.
that you're stuck.
Yeah.
And that's 5 nights a week. Unless you're wrestling, then that's on a Saturday or the nighttime.
So by the time, as your career developed, did your dad ever go, yeah, I like what you're doing, man?
September 14th, 1974.
Okay.
Up until that day, up until I'm working for Elvis Presley, I'm working training with Elvis Presley. When are you going to quit doing this? You get a job. Up until then.
And you're teaching Elvis Presley
working out with
karate,
Elvis, yeah.
and he still wants you to get a real
be a
job.
school teacher. September 14th, 1974, I called my father and said, Dad, I won. That night, it became, this is my son. He's a world champion.
That was it. Yeah.
And so as long, and the funny thing is, if I would have taught high school or grade school or whatever it would have been, semesters, let's say,
Right.
Okay, you teach 2 different groups in a semester. 4 or 5 classes or whatever it is, maybe you reached so many people. This way, doing what I've done, I've been all over the world several times. Not to brag, I apologize, but I've been all over the world several times. I just got back from England for 10 days, doing seminars.
How's Andy? How's Andy?
Andy Crittenden?
Yeah.
He's great.
Hey,
He's
Andy, if you're listening, because sometimes he tunes
Andy's,
in.
Hello, guy. Yeah, he's doing super. But he didn't get to the super show, but he's usually there.
Okay.
But so all over did 11 seminars in 8 days.
Wow.
And
and I'm a seminar guy,
Yeah.
so I can totally respect what you just said, because that's a lot of freaking events in
But for me, I look at it as a workout, as a training session for me. Just because if I'm working with Dave Kovar, who has a fantastic front kick, everybody, this front kick, if you would see his front kick, you go, whoa. I saw it and I was flabbergasted.
Thank you.
Literally.
You guys heard it here. Bill Wallace likes my front kicks. You know.
Well, I like the hand techniques with the defense of it.
So if you ever see me and you wanted me to demonstrate, I'll be happy to show you, because I have to give Mr. Wallace full credit for the skill that I have with this front kick.
I am very impressed.
All right, switching gears. You've met a lot of people in your life, and it's so. I think out of curiosity, it's like you had a chance. Like clearly, you trained John Belushi, and you were friends with him. Yeah. And I heard he was a pretty good athlete.
He was a wrestler in high school.
Okay.
And when I met him in 1979, they were working on the Blues Brothers movie. And I go to a party. This is what's funny. I'm with Richard Norton. We're going out he was staying with me in Memphis, Tennessee at the time. I was living in Memphis. And we go out to Los Angeles. And he says, you want to go to a party? I said, sure. So we go to a party. We drive up to Hollywood, Beverly Hills. We pull this out. There's a 275 GTB Ferrari parked there. And I said, nice car. This guy comes out. Now I'm a 60s music guy, not a 70s, 60s music guy. So I look at the car and I said, wow, that's great. And the guy comes out and he says, hi, I'm Mick. I said, how you doing, Mick? I shake his hand. Richard said, this is Mick Bill Wallace. So how you doing? He says, you like the car? I said, I love the car. Throws the keys to me. He says, take it for a spin. I said, no, because right there's about a $4 million car. So I said, no, I'll just sit here and drool. And we walk in. He said, and Richard says, you have no idea who that is, do you? I said, no, who is it? Mick Fleetwood. Oh, wow. I didn't know. I've listened to the 60s music, right? I'm an oldies guy. So I went, oh, wow. So we talked a little while and everything. I go inside and John Belushi's way in the back playing the drums. He looks at me and goes, and I look around, and I said, hi, how you doing? So he puts the drumsticks down. He comes and says, are you that Superfoot guy? I says, yeah. He says, nice to meet you. We shake hands. He says, now just right off the wheel, says, what are you doing this summer? I says, well, I plan on retiring in the middle of June of my last fight, but no plans after. He says, you want to go on tour with us? Now, nobody knew anything about a Blues Brothers movie.
Right.
We didn't hear.
Did you know who he was when you saw him?
No,
you didn't know?
I watched Saturday Night Live a couple
so you knew
times,
he was, okay.
But I knew, but I didn't know about the films, And he says, we're going to go on tour. For what? For the Blues Brothers. Did I miss something? He said, no, we're working on the film right now, but we're going to go on tour this weekend, pushing the film, pushing the tour. I said, sure, love to. You know how people say you want to go? Yeah. So he said, he gives me his number, which I put in my pocket, and I give him my number, thinking, thanks for, and we leave after a couple hours. I get home, back to Memphis. The middle of March, he calls and says, hey, you still going to go on tour with us? You'd love to, but right now I'm training for my fight. I'll worry about that after the fight. He says, okay. I'll call you the night before the fight. So he calls me Friday night, says, good luck, kick his ass and all this stuff. I said, thank you. And I fight, I win. They calls me right after the fight. He says, your tickets are waiting for you at the Indianapolis airport. We'll see you up at Navy Pier, because that's where we're rehearsing. So I fly up to Chicago. Guys there to pick me up at the airport. We drive to the Navy Pier. There's John Belushi, Dan Aykroyd, Bones Malone, Matt Guitar Murphy, all the guys, the band, Blues Brothers band. And we sit there playing. And so I'm sitting and watching him. And he said, now we're going to go to the Blues Bar tonight. This is where he gets sticky. So we go to the Blues Bar. He says, I'll be right back. I don't think about it. So he goes into the bathroom. And I'm talking to meeting people. Hour goes by, a couple hours go by. So I go in the bathroom, no John. I come out and says, do you know where John went? He says, he left a couple hours ago. And I said, okay. So I take a cab back to the hotel. I'm packing up my bags and he walks in. He said, where are you going? I says, I'm out of here. He said, where are you going? I said, well, number one, you want me to work with you on the tour, right? I says, and I'm for that 100%. But I don't need you say, I'll be right back and take off for a couple hours. Because I have no idea. I don't know.
And are you
that
supposed
well.
to be his bodyguard? Is that what you want? Okay.
Taking care of him.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I took enough punches and kicks for myself. Yeah. I don't want to take him for somebody else.
Sir, okay.
But my job was to train him, work out with him, keep him in shape. Because he did a lot of stuff for them. Yeah. Okay. And work out for him. So
you basically said, you're not going to do this.
Yeah. I said, you make up our mind right now. So this is what changed it. The lips come down. He gives me this big hug, a tight squeeze hug. And he says, okay. And the rest of the time we were together, he was like,
well,
that.
you know what, you got to imagine where he was at in his career. Everybody's around him doing whatever he wants. And here's a guy saying, I'm not going to put up with it. He probably massively respects you for it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Because I said, I don't need his buy. So we did the Blues Brothers tour. It was a mild success. It ended the 1st of August. September, John called and says, we're going to do a movie called Continental Divide. I want you to work out with me, get me in shape, because I got to be in good shape when I do this thing. Fine, John. So I fly to Martha's Vineyard where they're staying. We start right that day training. I put him on a diet, 1,000 calories a day, which is hard for a big guy to have 1,000 calories a day. And I cooked for him.
So that's what he was getting.
Yeah, 1,000, not a calorie more or less, But we did that. He was 242 when we started.
Okay.
When about halfway through the film, it was down to 199, which is hard for a big guy to do.
Sure.
Not just working out, starving all day, but he was in great shape and he looked superb.
Yeah, amazing. And you were there even at the end for him. Yeah. Yes, unfortunately. Yeah.
Well, again, see, everybody, people that are well-known, people that are celebrities, they don't really know who their friends are. I use you to meet somebody else.
Right.
You used me to get a hold of somebody. So and what it is, so John didn't know, except he knew I was his friend. John died the night I had to go back to Memphis, Tennessee to sign for my divorce.
Wow.
I said, I'll be back tonight. So I go away. Now, who Don Novello is?
I've heard the name.
Don Novello is Father Sarducci.
Okay. Wow.
Okay. They were doing writing a movie called Noble Rot.
Okay.
It's about grapes in the vineyards up here.
Yeah.
That every once in a while they have a virus on or a fungus that the grapes are superbly delicious for some reason. So they were working on a film. Now, John could read the Bible to you, and he'd get you to laugh. But the studio producers were read the script and didn't think it was funny. Well, you're not
John Belushi.
Yeah.
And
so he'd have to rewrite the script.
So on a completely different note, that's really interesting. So, you've done so many things and met so many people, and your passion is still strong. What would you say, like kind of bringing back to full circle, like martial arts? Hey man, I can't, my knee hurts a little bit. I'd like to train, but my needs a little bit. I'm really busy. I don't have time to exercise. What do you tell people as far as, how have you been able to stay on the path?
Understand this. The guy that said no pain, no gain, he's dead. And your body's a phenomenal machine. I have a master's degree in kinesiology and physiology of exercise from Memphis State. And your body's absolutely phenomenal if you allow it to do what it needs to do.
Okay.
The problem is some people work through the pain. Well, to a certain degree, you can work through that pain, but you have to let the muscles, you have to let the soft tissue, because it's soft tissue, you have to let it heal. The bones, you get a bone bruise, you have to let it heal. Well, we won't, because I'm going to be tough.
Right.
Bull crap. Let it heal.
So how many people have you seen who didn't listen to that rule that are no longer able to train because they didn't listen to your body? Your whole generation, everybody you train with.
Yep,
like you're the only guy, you're the last man standing to a certain degree, right?
You're around if you were going to be a master, what's the first thing you had to have? A gut.
Yeah, right.
You had to be fat. Don't get me wrong. I respect all these. Ed Parker had a gut. Robert Triz had a butt. All these 7th, 8th, 9th degree masters had guts. They haven't seen their toes in 15 years. So you go, do I have to have one of those to get it? No, you don't. Like I said, I still weigh the same now that I weighed when I retired in 1965, 1980. And I still love it. I love training.
Well,
and my diet's phenomenal.
On behalf of the martial arts industry, sincerely, I want to thank you for everything you've done and the example you've been for people about the passion you bring to the table, and more like you're a fun guy to be around. You're always the life of the party, and you make people feel like special. But really, at the end of the day, you care about people. It's really clear.
Oh yeah,
and you really. you bring your A game to seminars. You've done thousands of seminars, but you wouldn't know it by watching you teach a class. What I mean by that is that you can tell your spirit is present. You've probably told this joke before. You've probably said this thing, but that doesn't matter because you are 100% focused on that.
Yeah.
And that's a real gift. That's not easy to do. And speaking from a guy, I've not done near as many seminars as you have, but I've done my share.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes you kind of have to go, okay, here it is, game time, right?
Well, it's the truth. Your body is like we said. When it's time for you to do your seminar, you've got to have your A game.
Yeah.
Because the guy that says, well, he doesn't care. I had one guy sometime, I was doing a seminar for kids, jokingly, I says, I hate kids. And I love kids seminars. He's there, it shows. What?
Yeah.
Because, I just spent an hour and a half working with kids that normally their attention span is 20 minutes?
Right. And you had it for an hour and a half. Yeah.
And they were working to that end of that hour and a half. So that makes me feel good about that.
Yeah, well, and then that's why people will continue to, you kind of have a circuit now, right? And people come back, and why do they come back? Because you're authentic and you're real. And so just I don't want to take any more time because it's getting late, but I just say on behalf of the martial arts industry, I appreciate you.
Thank you, sir. My pleasure.
To it.
All right. I have a ball.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take care, guys.
Thank you for tuning in today to our podcast. I hope you found it valuable and inspirational. To stay connected, please subscribe to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you go for your podcasts. If you enjoyed today's show, please give us a 5-star review. And we really sincerely would appreciate some feedback. Your feedback helps us to create high-quality content that will help others in the future. If you'd like to follow me, you can go to Dave Kovar on Facebook or Haunchie Dave Kovar on Instagram. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on next episode.